Coming up on this episode of Common Denominator.
To me, I always hold this one, and I feel that I can't go without it. Like once I know this is what I want to try and do, this is my project, I feel like there's nothing else in my head. Like that's all I want.
Hi, and welcome to Common Denominator, where we focus on human connection and what brings us together. I'm Moshe Popack, and today, what it's like to scale some of the most incredible rock formations in the world. Angie Scarth-Johnson is a professional rock climber who has scaled insane heights and is widely considered to be one of the best people on the planet at what she does. And she's only 18. She'll tell us what motivates her to push herself to the limit and beyond. Before we chat with Angie, a quick reminder that if you like the show, please subscribe and follow me on social media at mpopack. Now, here's my conversation with Angie Scarth-Johnson. Enjoy. Hi, Angie. Welcome to Common Denominator.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
So what fascinates me is what you do for your profession. You know, you're an amazing, accomplished rock climber, and you've climbed three 9As, which, if you can explain that, because that in itself is tremendous in my mind to think about what it takes. And you're only 18 years old. So let's explain that. Let's unravel that and unpack that for the audience, what that means.
Yeah, I am a outdoor sports climber, and I've been climbing for about 10 years now. I, at the time, didn't know climbing was even a sport. When I started climbing in Australia, climbing was a very, very small community. And I didn't realize where I'd be in 10 years from then, that it could be a profession. I could be a professional athlete. Doing 9A, the grade, had always been a goal of mine from a very young age, because it's kind of like that level that you reach, and it's like, okay, you've reached that high level. Like it's like the level to reach, I guess, in my eyes, growing up. Like that was like could I ever, or am I able to sort of reach that? And to have been able to do that more recently, I've sort of unlocked that level, has been incredible. It's very hard to explain to non-climbers what exactly a 9A is. I couldn't even physically describe it to you because there's so many different types of rock climbs that can be 9A. It's basically just a level that is extremely physically hard, that has only been reached by few women and few people.
So it's probably super height. I'm thinking, so like as a lay person, and then the formation is probably hard, like you're saying, kind of physically, physically, to reach the peak, it's probably, you just have to just be in like the right type of mindset and physically fit. I mean, everything I'm thinking, right? Like how long would that, so you decide, each time I'm gonna do this, how long does that climb take?
Yeah, well, the actual climb itself takes about 7 minutes, or around 7 to 12. It really depends how high the climb is. But the process to like getting to that level, to training to that level, to then finding a climb that is your style or something that you believe you can achieve, that process is what takes the longest. And then to be able to spend that time working on a project of such grade without basically going insane, because it's quite a mind game, climbing. It's quite mentally hard because you can spend so much time on one route, and it's pretty much a ticking time bomb until you can no longer do it, or you do it. So
right.
Yeah, it's
right. I think of everything, and I love that you talk about that, is about, building everything, so it's only 7 minutes, but that's what in life the greatest athletes, it's always the things that people don't see. It's always that work when nobody's looking. So you had this thought, and how you were expressing it, right? I'm going to make this climb that barely anybody in the world, and any other, women climbers have done, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it 3 times. So I'm thinking like, okay, so it starts with a thought, and we always have this kind of like self-doubt. So what is it like, the mentality, the mindset? Do you have a coach as far as the mentality and the mindset?
No, I don't have a coach or anything like that, but you see it time and time again in sports where athletes can perform incredible things in their training rooms, or, next to their coaches, or, familiar faces watching them. And you think to yourself, wow, this guy is going to, win every comp next season. He's looking amazing in his performance. And then you take them out of their comfort environment and you put them in a room like next to hundreds of unfamiliar faces and 10 other athletes like them. And all of a sudden your self-confidence drops and everything they could do before disappears. And I think that's why sometimes people don't appreciate or don't train one of the strongest muscles in the human body, which is the brain, which is, I think, the most important thing in an athlete's performance. Is I believe it holds like 60% of your physical power is just out of your mind, like just wanting to do it. And just that mental belief that you're able to reach that level and to do it. I think your mind is extremely strong, and you see it all the time with athletes.
Yeah, I think it's amazing that you've been able to conquer, I don't want to call them demons, or doubts or thoughts, where you had this initial thought, okay, I'm going to do this, but without a coach. Because I know, the greatest athletes, many that I've spoken to and been around, they do have that, someone that's pushing you, some coach. But the fact that you were able to do that, to conquer your own mind when the pressure was there, I think that's tremendous. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. I have had coaches in the past, and you know what? I think it's honestly just my stubbornness that I can't. I'm very how do I put it? Like I try to put trust into other people. Of course, people who have studied climbing and sports science, of course, they have a huge knowledge on climbing and sports. But I have climbed for so long alone that I feel like now I have to continue that, because I feel like it's difficult for me to put my trust of my physical self into someone else, to train me into being what I want to be. There are climbers who don't have coaches and climbers who do. I think climbing is actually quite a unique sport because you don't have to have a coach. You can just get by on your own. Not everyone does, and not everyone can, because you need to be able to really push yourself and be able to be self-critical. But yeah, it's just a personal choice that I find it more difficult to entrust someone else, I guess, with my own physical strength. I don't know.
Well, I can definitely understand that, but that leads to, I always say, the greatest strength always comes down to someone making a decision, but the decision comes from them. You can be in like the worst position, and nobody's going to do it for you. And that's, to your point, is about the brain, right? Is about your brain, the power of the brain. And I always believe that it is the greatest tool that we have. Let's talk for a minute about, physically demanding. What is like kind of what is the physical regimen, like the daily regimen? And then also like, why is it so physically intense to climb?
I think it's physically intense. Climbing is, you need your whole body. Although it looks very upper body, you need your legs as well. Everything needs to be in shape for climbing to work. It's almost like, in a way, it's kind of like dancing. Like you have to be physically, your body has to be physically strong, every part of you, because you're pulling yourself up in roofs or on very small holds, and you have to have that physical strength to do so. Climbing requires a lot of finger strength. Rock climbing requires a lot of finger strength. And there's more than anything, I think the hardest part is just the consistency of it, that you can't go long without training, or you lose everything. I remember I was at a Red Bull athlete camp, and I was with, I think, 6 other girls, and they all did different sports, and I was the only rock climber. And we were there for about 2 weeks or a week and a half. And I said to the girls, I said, how are you guys going to keep fit in this week and a half? We're just, we were in a villa, and we were hanging out together and just doing, social media stuff and checking up on each other. And there was no training equipment. There was nothing. And so I was like really concerned, like, what are we going to do? Do you guys have a plan? Like, are you guys going to do some running, or like, what can we do? And they all were like, no, we don't need to train. It's only a week and a half. And I was like, a week and a half? That's like the maximum I would rest in 2 years. Like, so I was like super stressed. And then I realized, wow, climbing it's actually a really physically demanding sport, because you actually have to always, keep in touch. You're always at least doing some conditioning or something to keep those muscles, warm. And that really interests me and kind of opened my eyes, like, wow, I'm here stressing about losing this week and a half, and these guys are like saying it's like nothing. And I think that's a hard part about climbing as well, that you have to be so consistent. You can't stop. You have to keep going, keep conditioned, and always ready.
If you're just joining us, you're listening to the Common Denominator podcast. My guest is Angie Scarth-Johnson, who at 18 years old has already climbed some of the most prodigious rock formations in the world. We're discussing the physical and mental strength she possesses at such a young age. Next week, just in time for Valentine's Day, dating expert and coach Ricky Diamond will join us to answer the timeless question, is it ever okay to check your email on a date? The answer is no. She'll also provide the do's and don'ts of dating, tell you how to keep your marriage fresh and exciting, and help you level up your love life. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. Now, back to the show. So when you're up on the mountain, I'm just, thinking mentally and physically, and I guess it starts physically in your mind, you're exhausted. What are the thoughts going on in your mind? Because you've been able to overcome that time and time again. So you're like, your brain's telling you, okay, I can't really do this. So what do you, I know you have that stubborn side you said. So what do you, is that the idea? It's like kind of no matter what, I'm going to do this?
I guess, well, one way you could put it is that rock climbing, it's a process of finding your project, and then you could keep trying that, falling and falling and falling until you do it. That could be anywhere from a week to 3 months to 5 months to 2 years. You don't know how long that's going to be. That's how rock climbing works. But to me, I always hold this one, and I feel that I can't go without it. Like once I know this is what I want to try and do, this is my project, I feel like there's nothing else in my head. Like that's all I want. And I guess that's what sort of separates the best and people who just do it for fun is when the athletes, the climbing athletes that are like, this is what I have to do. It's almost like a drug. Like you can't stop until you conquer the goal. And I believe that you're able to conquer any goal when you can conquer yourself. I think one of the most powerful positions that you can be in is when you have reached a point where you can be self-critical to better yourself. And nobody knows your bad habits like you do. I'm not talking about food habits, although that might be something you're dealing with. I'm talking more about, being your own support and sitting back and saying, okay, what can I do to make tomorrow better? Where do my weaknesses lie? Learn from others and learn how to better yourself. I think that's the most powerful thing in from what I've learned, from what I've been doing, that, you know, as long as I'm able to keep myself happy and to make myself feel better and better every day with my performance in some way, or keep myself happy about it, you know, because it can be quite depressing sometimes when you're falling in the same place for so long. Trying to find ways to keep reassuring myself that I can do it. I think that's the hardest part.
I think at 18 years old, I think that's super mature. I think your mindset, I don't see people that are 60, 70 that have the mindset that you do. So that's really amazing. One thing I saw a little while ago, they had a documentary. We were talking a little bit about before the show of free solo climbers, basically with no protective gear. So tell me, do you ever think about that, to climb that way? And have you ever met any climbers that...
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Right? And what's the difference of your mindset and their mindset?
Actually, I know quite a few climbers, rope climbers that do it on the side. Actually, quite a few of my friends. Actually, my boyfriend. It's a different type of climbing for sure. I think it's different because, first of all, you're lowering the level usually. I mean, unless you're completely insane, you have to lower the level of so you're not going to be climbing your highest ability because you're obviously just going to fall. So they then have to lower the level. Some people will practice it with the rope and then try again without the rope. And then some don't. It's there's no right or wrong way to free solo. It's just like crazy people do it, I guess. I mean, I have a friend who fell and broke both his legs and is still thinking of getting back into it. Like, it's just a crazy state of mind that I don't know if I'd ever reach. I mean, it would be an honor to have such a strong mindset, really. But I don't know if my...
I mean, I think, you know, as a layperson, I think about it. I'm like, I've said this. I do have that extreme personality, and I could understand it. But remember, you have to balance that with the real possibility. There's no, protection, so you may fall, right? So you may fall,
absolutely,
and that's a real thing. Because then, if you fall, you're not around anymore. Possibly.
I mean, I think you have to be very comfortable. I mean, death is very present when you're free soloing. You have to be comfortable with that thought that it could even possibly not even be in your power, whether or not you slip or a hold breaks or a rock falls from the top. Those are things you can't control. That no matter how strong you are or how confident you are on the climb, things can still happen that you are not aware that's going to happen, that can pull you off of the rock. And then before you know it, you're falling. I mean, but climbers know that when they go into it. And I guess it's like I said, like, you're just comfortable with the thought, or not comfortable, but you are aware of what will happen if you fall. I mean, to be honest, if I was free soloing, I would probably prefer to die than to not die, because I can't imagine the feeling of falling and surviving. So I think from what I've heard from people that do it is that if they fall, they prefer that they fall and that be it.
Right, which is...
And not...
Yeah, it's I mean, I think about it right now and it gets me a little bit emotional, actually. I understand it, but I'd love to sit and discuss. I mean, imagine that, right? Imagine you said your boyfriend does that, and maybe one day he might not be around. And what about people that he cares about, right?
Yeah. I mean, he's a rope climber as well, like me, like a rope climber, and he's very, very calculated. He's not as crazy as some of the other guys you get out there, but I mean, I always think about when he does it and I think, wow, yeah, that could definitely be something that happens. And then I mean, but I think it's a skill. It's such a skill to be able to hold, like imagine being able to hold that thought in the back of your head and just do it. Like imagine the power as a human. Humans are so scared of any little thing humans are so scared of death. I mean, we're so aware of it. And so imagine just having that right behind you and just like, I couldn't imagine it.
I'll tell you, we had a guest who was a storm chaser, and he literally said, like, his car was lifted up kind of by the storm. And I was asking him, like, okay, so tell me about, and I understand that, right? You're such pain, or I guess some, like, from that fear. You never want to feel that fear again. So what you do all day is you switched your mind, and you just tackle it. This is your way. You know, and going to, you know, we talk a lot on the show about being present. You know, I always think about, I have a mantra every morning. The past you cannot change, no matter what you do. The future, nobody knows. So the only thing that's left is being present. You know, I always meditate on that every single morning. And I think that when you're up there on the climb, I think that it's seemingly, again, I've never climbed, but seemingly it forces you to be present, I assume.
Yeah, I mean, climbing at your hardest limit, rock climbing with a rope, I mean, it's very different. Yeah, a different idea of being present. Like everything is blurred out from the sides. Personally, from when I climb, I feel that everything kind of disappears, just falls back, and it's just, there's a point there where you're so unaware of your surroundings. Anything could be happening in the background, and you just don't even realize because you're so engaged in what you're doing, in the movements and the climb, the holds. It's a special feeling, and I think that's what actually climbers crave, is that feeling when you're like in that mindset where you just zone out. It's like almost a form of meditation, that you are so unaware of anything else. It's just you and the rock and the feeling between that.
They were like flow state, where your physical body's in one place and your consciousness is in another, and it's just complete bliss.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you have the opportunity? I mean, some of these climbs that you've done is probably the landscape. You know, it's like that's the micro, right? Every technical thing that you're doing. But do you have a chance to take a step back and look at the beautiful view and where you are? I mean, that's probably also amazing, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm terrible with it because you get very used to it. Actually, you get very used to these beautiful views, because you're always surrounded by them. It's an incredible job, really, to be able to go out and just constantly be outside and in these places that are untouched, and just super silent, and you can just see eagles in the sky and listen to birds, and it's a very special place, I think, and I'm very lucky to do what I do.
And just as far as schooling, I guess you're in Spain now, do you online school or homeschooled?
Yeah, I'm not going to, I finished school.
Right.
I was homeschooled for quite a few of the last years in high school, just because I was traveling heaps, and I couldn't have done it at home in Australia because I was too much abroad. So I had to do homeschooling. And since I've just been very focused on my climbing.
I see you mentioned Red Bull. I see you have a Red Bull hat. Are you like kind of an ambassador for Red Bull? Is that?
I'm a Red Bull athlete. Yeah.
Right. Very cool.
Athlete. Yeah.
So they reached out to you. They saw what you do, and they asked you to join. That's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I guess so. That's how it goes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome
that's
family
tremendous
to be part of.
But I know you mentioned 10 years you've been doing this. How did you originally kind of fall in love with rock climbing? Yeah,
well, I no one in my family climbs. Like I said earlier before, when I started climbing in Australia, didn't really, I mean, it was definitely around. There was a community, but it was very small. And well, at the time, comp climbing was really not a thing, especially in Australia. It wasn't a thing in Australia. When you started climbing, you just kind of went outdoors. And then as years went on, the comp scene got bigger in Europe and in the States, and then so it did in Australia as well. But by then, I had already started climbing outside rock, and that's sort of where I fell in love. I just love the sort of just the feeling of, it's almost like having to solve a puzzle. Like it's so special. I don't know anyone that hasn't, tried climbing and didn't like it. It's like putting the best parts of a puzzle and a dance and just a mind game and just putting it all together, and you solve things, and there's always many ways to do things. And I just fell in love with just everything about climbing and how it made me feel inside, and it felt very natural to me. And I started climbing in a local gym in Canberra, and I joined a squad, but I grew out of it quite fast and just started climbing on my own. And that's when I met a group of older climbers who were rock climbers, and they offered to go out with me and my dad to take me out to the local rocks close to where I lived. And we went out, and that's when I first started and fell in love with climbing.
Amazing. What would you say is your favorite place that you've ever climbed?
Spain, probably. That's why I live here. Yeah. Everywhere in Spain. I mean, Spain is the mecca of climbing. There's so much here.
Right.
Yeah.
So in a typical month, you'd be out climbing how many times a week, let's just say, would you?
5 times. I mean, my whole life revolves around it. So I do it if I'm not climbing on rock, I'm training. If I'm resting because I'm climbing the next day. My whole life revolves around rock climbing. There's nothing else that if I'm resting, it's resting for climbing. Like if I'm not climbing, it's wow. Doing something else but climbing.
Super dedicated. But is there anything that you do that you do for fun when you're not climbing?
Yeah, I play guitar sometimes. Not so much now, but I did a few years ago. And I love dogs. I have one of my own here, and I spend a lot of time with her. And yeah, I mean, my life is very busy with climbing alone. So not much time for much else.
Yeah, no, we got a big red poodle, Boris. He's 8 months, so I get so that. Good. He's growing on the family, Boris. I'm gonna bring him to the studio one of these days. Yeah, he's right. It's a thing. I didn't understand it. I do love animals, but I really it's really amazing. So is there any climbs, like what's your next goal, or what's on your bucket list of what you like to accomplish as far as climbing?
Mm-hmm. I kind of I've never really had I've never been a person to kind of say like, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to do. I kind of just let things flow, and whatever comes to me just kind of happens. And that's been going great for me. I have a massive goal right now, which is to do a 9A plus, which is I'm currently working on now. I'm in the climbing area right now, doing my project, which is the 9A plus, and I'm working on it slowly, but it's coming together quite well. And right now that's just what I'm working on, and I'm excited to see where kind of that leads me, whether I do it or not. That kind of determines my year, really, where I'm going for the rest of the year. And
what's something that speaks to you right now that you're deeply grateful for?
It's something I'm deeply grateful for. I think I'm grateful for, I think with everything going on in the world right now, I think I'm grateful to be healthy and safe, and to have a place to sleep. I mean, it's crazy what's happening around the world. And so when I see things on it, and when, I have friends that are from Ukraine, and friends in climbing who, have been affected by the many things happening around. I mean, there's so many things. So I think when you see those things, you're just like, wow, there's actually a lot to be grateful for. And it's very simple. It's, just having the right to do things, the right to be an athlete as a female, the right to be free.
Yeah, it's amazing. And what's something that people don't know about you?
So many people don't know about me. I feel like people know everything.
Well, you told us you do play guitar. That would have been it. Right? It's like, I'm sure people don't know.
Probably.
Right?
I mean, I'm obsessed with dogs, but to another level. Like, my dog is my child. Like, I think people know I really like dogs and animals, but probably not to the level that
I sum it up. I think of it as like unconditional love. And that's super important.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, that's all they want. It's like, just feed them, and then they just give you love. And it's like,
it's great. Yeah.
It's really amazing. I really, Angie, this was super great. Like, I, expanded my mind. Hopefully the audience got that to, different perspective. And I love at your age how dedicated you are to something that's important to you. And you should keep pushing, obviously. And that's what it is. You can have these super high goals, but as long as you take it step by step by step, be safe, right? Do things correct. So thank you so much. How could people find out more about you and follow you on social?
Yeah, well, thank you very much. First of all, it's been a pleasure to sit down and have a good talk. And as far as, I guess on my Instagram, I post the most there. So it would be Angie Scarth-Johnson. It's my Instagram tag. So yeah.
Well, thank you so much. It's really been great, and good luck with everything. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Hope you enjoyed my conversation with Angie. Next week, dating expert and coach Ricky Diamond joins us just in time for Valentine's Day. Whether you're single, dating, or married, she's got practical tools to help you level up your love life. So, get ready for a masterclass in romance. Please subscribe to the show so you don't miss an episode, and follow me on social media at @Popack. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you again soon.